Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Links with Friends. Today is June 25th, and we're doing government and security stories to start the week.
It's a rough week. Heat dome.
Well, yeah, in our part of the world. I think it's actually cooler in some places. Like further west, yeah.
This is the only place that matters.
Well, that's true.
This room right
Not
here.
wrong. There's also a bug interloper, so if you see us, freak out, it's because the bug has come back.
Definitely not the ketamine. I don't think it has that effect. I think it's a downer. And this is a downer if you're someone who is currently using this software or the country of Russia.
Biden has banned U.S. sales of Kaspersky software over Russian ties. This is in Reuters. I'm surprised this took as long as it did. We covered this story like a year or two ago, and it was like, hey, there's just enough sketchy stuff in Kaspersky that's like, I don't know.
It's the speed of government. It takes them a while.
But also, you want to have strong headlines from here till November.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I would expect more and more breadcrumbs, larger breadcrumbs as we...
the larger macroscopic things, like most antivirus companies, would you trust them? And it's like, I think about McAfee. I think about Intel buying McAfee, and it's like, or Norton, like Norton or McAfee, like the dumpster fire that those pieces of software have become. Amazing, astonishing. And it's like, oh yeah, Kaspersky. And it's like, is Kaspersky worse than McAfee or Norton? It's like, in terms of intelligence apparatus, probably not. But in terms of what it does to your computer, probably.
You don't think there's some intelligence in the others?
I mean, it's probably naive, but I figured like the more fringe antivirus software probably doesn't have that, but maybe. Is there telemetry in like Hardware Info 64? That's alarming.
Maybe not that, but Kaspersky's a pretty big name.
Elevate your journey.
Yeah, this paywall is so aggressive. This is Forbes. I try to avoid Forbes, but you actually can read this without JavaScript, so I got lazy. We'll try to time it correctly, but this is, it's not surprising that it's happening, but perhaps the scope of it, and, we always talk about this, the revolving door. Well, it's no longer revolving. It's more of like a pedway or a skyway.
There's the bug, yeah.
Here he is. Oh, you know what? I bet he's CIA.
Oh, shit. That guy, he's CIA.
Don't kill him or you'll get charges.
Dang it, flying smart dust.
Anyway, yeah, this is terrifying. All right, let's try to...
Oh, wow.
Wow, it's getting so... because everything's cash now. The Federal Express is apparently running a side mission to make more money, so they're putting surveillance equipment on their vans and then selling the data to law enforcement.
But not only that, they have, in all of their warehouses and all of their properties and everything that FedEx owns, they also have smart cameras and a pretty good camera network, you can imagine, in those warehouses. That is all freely available to law enforcement on request. Probably not even on request. They probably got a nice dashboard they just go and get themselves, right?
Yeah.
Neat. At least Forbes, has got the receipts for it. It's like, interesting.
So every time you see the nice FedEx truck and you're like, oh, they're bringing my packages. They're also surveilling you. There are some numbers in here about in a 6-month period, they got, I think it was 1.6 billion license plate hits from one warehouse and trucks. So total timeline of your existence available to the cops and to FedEx at all times. And Amazon also operates large warehouses, and we know how horrible and dystopian those are. We've seen plenty of evidence, but the government is still catching up.
Amazon fined $5.9 million over 59,000 violations of California labor law, which to me the headline should have been, Amazon has resolved its violations of California labor law with a pittance.
Yeah, that's like nothing to them.
So at odds here was the quota. Amazon has a number of packages that you have to sort or pack or whatever in a given time. But wait, do they? Amazon says no, we don't do quotas. Because if you do quotas, you have to post what they are all over the building. Everybody has to be aware of it. But Amazon's like, no, we don't do that. We do a more fluid method where you're judged based on your peers and you talk to your manager. And the Amazon workers are like, we have no idea. It's just always more.
It's like everybody has to always post the average. And it's like, wait a minute. Isn't that by definition that always some people are going to be below average or slightly below average? Like in a best case scenario, you're always going to have people below the average.
And you churn out the bottom, and you continually bring in new workers, and then nobody ever gets seniority.
Until everybody's joints are powder.
And they did point out the ratio of injuries compared to some other warehouses. It's a little high. And you know what else is high, especially here in the heat dome, is power usage. How are we going to get out of it?
U.S. Senate passes bill to support advanced nuclear U.S. energy deployment. Man, if only they could do this in the 80s, we would be all set today.
I don't know anything about this, but I feel like reading between the lines here, there's a lot of regulatory capture here, and they're basically saying Bill Gates is going to run energy in this country in 10 years.
Yeah, that is alarming. I don't know if this is true or not, but I had somebody that does data center building that swears that the 2 nuclear places that are coming online in Georgia is basically because the grid there is so screwed that there's just like there's no hope. It's like they can't even run the air conditioners in Atlanta this summer. So what are you going to do? It's like, well, nuclear.
Yeah, just throw that right on top of that mess. That'll be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? I would gamble. If they're like, here's your choice. Possible nuclear meltdown or no air conditioner.
In Georgia in summer.
Even here,
Yeah.
I'm taking the AC.
Living here, like being aware of the ecological fallout from burning coal, like the stuff that has come from the coal exhaust raining down everywhere, nuclear wouldn't be that bad, even in the event of catastrophic failure.
But coal didn't have to be that bad. It was done bad on purpose to save money.
Well, if nuclear was done bad on purpose to save money, it would have been less bad.
And they're going to do it again. And Adobe has they've made some people angry. That's kind of a perennial headline,
They
isn't it?
constantly make people angry.
But for once, maybe they went a little too far and got a backlash.
The U.S. has sued Adobe over subscription plan disclosures. Yes, because if you've ever dealt with any Adobe product, starting with Acrobat, it is madness. Like
I hate that I have to use it for work.
Yeah, it's like
It's the industry standard for design. You have to use it if you're collaborating with other teams, and it's awful.
even a tiny. It's like I just want 15 copies of Acrobat to be able to make Acrobat documents. And Adobe wants to sell you a lot of things. You're not prepared for the level of that adversarial relationship for the amount of money you're going to have to spend just to make PDFs.
And if you get fed up with it and you're like, I'm done with you, Adobe, you still owe them money because there's fine print in there about termination and stuff like
You have to
that.
finish out your year.
That in particular is what the U.S. government is not happy about.
Someone I know mentioned that there's a LinkedIn rant from one of their artist friends that says, hey, Adobe stole my artwork and credited it for their AI thing. And it's like, oh, I need some more details on that because that's something we might want to cover in this program because good Lord.
It wouldn't surprise me even a little bit.
And this shouldn't surprise you even a little bit. In a week where we just had some international meetings and more money was given away to other countries. But once again, we just don't have anything for here at home. I'm sorry. We're tapped out.
The Verge's headline is an effort to fund an internet subsidy program just got thwarted again. Doesn't bode well for a revival of the Affordable Connectivity Program, which ran out of money at the end of May. It's not covered in this article, but there was another article that I read and then I tried to find later. Apparently one of these programs has distributed like $43 billion, but then they asked, is like, all right, how many homes were connected as a result of this distribution of money? And
Of course, there's no accountability
No,
ever.
I left it out because
yeah,
I just don't want to argue with the political stuff. But that was the
wasn't that related to this?
no, that was Inflation Reduction Act.
Oh.
They have had 0 new internet connections from that. Yeah.
Do you have? I could single-handedly do the entire state for $43 billion. Like, just throwing that out there.
Well, social media. Is it bad for you? I say yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
This
I would
is
agree with
social.
that.
Do you feel better watching this program on social media?
as addicted to social media as I am, it's just like, no, I just have to turn
This
it
is
off.
bad sometimes, yeah.
But I don't think that this would stop you. Would you agree?
No, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of ineffective, I think.
The Surgeon General wants tobacco-style warnings applied to social media platforms. I agree with this. This is probably okay. This
Where
is
did-
much better than age bans.
Where would you put it, though?
But once again, I don't think it's going to change anything. This is going to cost a lot of money. to get, like there's going to have to be committees and they're going to hammer out guidelines, and it's not going to mean anything.
It's wild.
Would it just be a banner at sign up like this has been known to cause problems in pregnant women?
Or just putting it at the bottom of every page. Like it's wild that would cost a lot of money. It's like just at the bottom of every page.
It's a disclaimer, yeah.
By the way.
How about this? Here's the rule. The nag to try to get you to log in or register has to be the exact same level of nag you get to tell you that it's bad for you.
Yeah. That'd be fine.
But you can't combine the two. I would be the most hated man in America if that happened. And deepfakes. It's interesting that they were claiming, maybe not explicitly, but they were certainly hinting heavily that the whole G7 parachuting thing was deepfaked. I don't think it was. But deepfake is now something that can be an excuse, but also a threat.
Big Tech's voluntary approach to deepfakes isn't enough, top U.S. cyberdefense official says. I always get worried about this because most of the time these grabs are like, we need full control of all of the content that is being disseminated on these large websites just in case a deepfake something is happening so we can get in front of it before people realize. And it's like, I'm not comfortable with you having that level of power.
This woman is a mouthpiece for the intelligence apparatus, and I hate her for that, but these pants are fire.
They're like, they're embroidered. They're really
nice.
cool. Yeah. I wonder if she did that herself or if she bought them that way.
She's really trying to...
Some people are really into that kind of thing. They actually, they embroidered.
She looks like she's a little too old for it.
Embroidery's
that's an all ages activity.
But I think
it's also like, if you're talking about embroidery, older women, come on.
But I feel like it's a younger thing right now that the pants having all that.
Oh, yeah. That's probably true in terms of a trend.
Flair.
You need intense hobbies like that to squelch the call of the void.
Yeah. You got to really just throw yourself into that and just ignore everything else.
She works in the void. The blob.
She is the void.
Hence the need for such intense embroidery. I mean.
So like, oh, what am I doing? Stare at the pants. Stare at the pants till it goes away. And if you're Google, you make things go away by just writing big checks, but not checks that are so big that you'll lose money because the thing that you did to get the fine was actually more, but that doesn't always work.
The Reuters follow-up for the thing that we've been joking on for the last couple of weeks is Google has lost its bid to end the U.S. antitrust case over digital advertising. This is the one where Google said, all right, look, why don't we just write you a check for the fine? This is the most you can get anyway if what you allege is true. Let's just end this. We don't want a jury trial. We just want a judge to do this.
You know what? We put an extra 100 on there. Get lunch for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, that's... the judge has said, no.
Interesting to see how that plays out. Usually it always goes their way in the end. And it always goes your way in the end if you are one of these people who controls all this stuff, because you don't make a ton of money in government. I mean, you can trade stocks with insider information. That's super lucrative. But what do you do to really, really make the money? Well, it's the old revolving door.
OpenAI adds former NSA chief to its board. Yeah, this is weird. This is really weird.
Straight to jail.
Isn't this weird?
Is it weird? Because if you're in the OpenAI boardroom and it's like, all right, so what is our job? Our job is to gobble up all the information that we can, whether anybody wants us to or not. Who knows how to do that?
What's really wild, too, is that AI hallucinates a lot, and this is exactly the kind of people that would ask the AI, it's like, so, tell me where the terrorists are. And it's like, here you go. And it's just making up stuff. It's like, it actually is
They're at point B.
Yeah. It's just...
They're long A.
Well, there's a segue there into like drones and terrorism, but
yeah,
it's too hot.
DJI drone ban passes the U.S. House, countering the CCP Drones Act would ban DJI sales from the U.S. if passed in the Senate. This isn't the first time we've reported on this. This is actually the second or third time this has come up. But the last time this came up, DJI actually did open a lot of their software. And at the time, this was probably like 2 or 3 years ago, I looked at the software, and the software was less obfuscated than, say, the Hikvision bootloader in those cameras. And so that was encouraging to see, but they're just saying, no, we got to get rid of these.
Well, you say that we've talked about it before, but it's kind of just inching further and further along, right?
Yeah.
More and more demands. And that's also true here, because we've already seen this headline. Concessions have already been made, but it's never enough.
The U.S. is seeking the help of Japan and the Netherlands to curb China's AI chip progress. How? Because Japan and the Netherlands have companies that make amazing cutting-edge parts that you can't get anywhere else in the world yet. China would like to buy those things.
And they also service them. That's not a machine that you just buy and it runs forever. It needs updates, it needs servicing, it needs very specialized care. And the U.S. says, we'd like you to stop.
One thing I do like about the trade wars is that I think that the rate at which we are going to build machinery that is capable of individual, atomic manipulation, a la what Drexler was envisioning in the 80s, is going to come to fruition a lot sooner. Because all this is like very specialty equipment that is like very, very, very special purpose. And like a generic, like additive, molecular, manipulative assembly machine for making things that could be used for a whole bunch of industries will come from this kind of tomfoolery. So that's exciting.
This fly is so aggressive.
Yeah.
I don't know what his problem is.
I hope I should tell our editor to put like a desert filter over this episode. Just a fly. It's hot.
Tumbleweed.
Maybe we wouldn't. Maybe the AI can imagine a Looney Tunes style, Hanna-Barbera style artwork behind us, where
Just a tunnel, a painted tunnel.
Yeah.
Well, the Attorney General thinks that social media is bad for you. I don't disagree. We have some pretty good evidence, I think, most of which is just how you see people behaving around you, how our youth is kind of wasting away. And Los Angeles has had enough.
The Los Angeles School Board votes to ban smartphones. This seems reasonable.
Yeah, I don't think that's unreasonable.
Here's the thing, though. How much enforcement effort is going to have to go into this? Because kids are not going to just leave their phones at home.
The kids are going to get more used to the prison-like atmosphere of school. It's going to be even more prison-like.
How long until they're trading ramen noodles as an internal economy?
Almost on day one.
Yeah, that already was a thing when I was a kid. It was eraser tops. Pogs.
But you had access to the outside world. Like you could get money. And here in the bluegrass, we are now one of the backward states that has decided to do this, which will accomplish nothing.
And the Verge's headline is that well-established website for adult material is going to block 5 more states over age verification laws, which will definitely stamp out a bunch of adult content on the internet for sure. Definitely.
It's not just a way for them to, get your actual ID so they can know where everybody's at all the time on the internet.
We actually have ISPs in this state that you can subscribe to that will only give you whitelisted websites. Like if you're into that, you have kids in your house, you don't want to pay attention to what they do on the internet, subscribe to one of those ISPs.
Or just actually pay attention to what's going on with your kids on the internet. You should probably do that anyway.
If you can't be bothered to babysit your children, then that's a reasonable solution.
Indiana, Idaho, Kansas, Kentucky. Oh, Kentucky will lose access June 10th. We've already lost it.
Oh.
What's the 5th state? Nebraska.
Everybody forgets about Nebraska.
I really don't mind so much the age verification part, but the machinery that comes with that is a tool of oppression, which is a problem.
Yeah, because they just want your ID, ultimately.
But how long? Okay, so that site, I'm not torn up about not being able to get to. But how long before that starts being applied to more and more stuff?
Every site, it's like, you have to use a real ID.
Yeah.
Remember when YouTube implemented the thing that you had to have your Google Plus identification? That should never be the case.
Because privacy is something that the government talks a lot about, but in fact, they are the antithesis of privacy. They want zero privacy. They want to destroy encryption. They want total control and vision at all times.
Vermont governor rejects a privacy bill that would be among the strongest in the U.S. Vermont was gung-ho. Vermont has a bit of a reputation of a progressive state, and so they said, but progressive not in the California way, but like progressive in the we're going to put a lot of thought into it and try to earnestly do it, as opposed to California, which has a level of corruption that seems to be just off the chart. I don't have the impression that there's that level of corruption in Vermont, and yet.
Well, her argument maybe makes sense. I don't know enough about the actual law, but she's saying like we need to work out more of the details and not leave loopholes and not have a federal program that conflicts with it, but at the same time, it was probably just lobbying, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The other side effect of all of these websites knowing exactly who you are, you can sort of build a really dark advertising profile. So it's not just that you prove your age, but then it's like, can they resist the temptation to track your every move? And the answer is no. If the money is there to pay FedEx to track your every move, then this is not something we should quickly build.
Well, it's already built. And it is working beautifully, totally smooth. On this day in question, I'm sure the license plate cameras were running like a well-oiled machine, but not this service.
The Ars Technica headline is statewide 911 outage, the one that we reported on a couple of times, was actually caused by 911 vendors malfunctioning firewall. Because apparently we have learned nothing in terms of redundancy and building things. And there were headlines.
Do we really need redundancy for 911 services? Come on.
There were headlines that attributed that outage to, it's like, there's no way this can happen. This has got to be, foreign intelligence services.
Malice,
Got to be another, solar winds hack. No, just really,
Stupidity.
very disappointing.
And as usual, our recording schedule has missed a major drama because it played out before we ever got to it. But
I kind of like that.
As with all the other major dramas that are like this, and we've seen so many in the past, this is not the end. No way, this is going to come back probably sooner than later.
Yep.
We're going to see it again, and the next time around, people will be less angry, and eventually they'll get their way.
The Verge's headline, which really doesn't encourage us to stay vigilant enough, says the EU chat control law proposes scanning your messages, even encrypted ones. They've set this aside because it attracted a lot of attention. The way that they framed this was like, we really need to protect the children by scanning literally everything. So yeah, they have withdrawn the vote on the chat control that would require them to scan everything, when a lot of very vocal people pointed out, hey, stop that, because we have to build this thing that can do that, which we don't have right now, which is bad.
That's not why they pulled it. They pulled it because they knew that it wasn't going to pass.
Yeah.
So rather than have it be defeated, you bring it back another day. That's smarter. So what they proposed here is like, listen, we're going to scan your messages, but we're not going to break end-to-end encryption. And everybody's like, really? Well, you've said that before, but what is your plan? I mean, if we're going to vote on it, what is your plan? And the plan was, we're going to scan it before it's encrypted, and that doesn't count.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense, right? And London is having a little problem with their hospitals because some horrible hacker has attacked them. But apparently, not actually a malicious hacker, just a freedom fighter.
Don't blame us for people suffering, the London hospital hackers say.
I think there's plenty of blame to go around there.
Yeah.
So they say, hey, we're not doing this for financial reasons, even though we're ransomwaring you. We're doing this as a political statement about the war. And in this horrible future, you have to ask, which war? They didn't clarify. Just that London wasn't doing enough in the war. And they needed to do more.
Something, we've always been at war with East Asia.
And, you're going to you probably were photographed by FedEx today. You were probably photographed by the government today. And you were probably photographed by Amazon today.
Amazon-powered AI cameras used to detect the emotions of unwitting UK train passengers.
This is why you got to start just making weird faces in public.
And sandwalking.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when you get on these public trains...
The bug, yeah, he's mad.
When you get on these public trains, you are being filmed, and the smart cameras are logging everything about you. If you have a bicycle, because that bike might be stolen, they follow you the whole time. That's cataloged. And if there's any sort of like aggressive movements or whatever, if you feel like dancing, you're going into the database.
I see. Yeah, that's a problem for me because anytime I hear music playing outside of like a restaurant or something, I have to kind of get down a little bit, and they're going to think something's wrong with me.
You're going to go on the list.
I'm probably already on the list. Let's be real.
And another small win, but again, probably just a temporary pause. This time with Meta rather than Google.
Meta pauses plans to train AI using European users' data, bowing to regulatory pressure. ... Things will proceed as normal with the rest of the world.
Gosh, I wish that was us. Why can't we be paused?
I like how they made this law, and it was like, under no circumstances can you do this ever. And Facebook was like, but we're going to do it, okay? No, not okay. All right.
Meta, no swiping.
And over in France, they have pretty much buckled entirely to the copyright cartels. They've written laws that have made it possible for them to do anything that they want.
Google and Cloudflare and Cisco are going to poison DNS to stop piracy block circumvention. Okay, or just maybe don't use them for DNS service.
Well, maybe don't use your ISP. Oh, wait, they've already got the ISPs. So now they've got all the major DNS. So now you're going to have to get a more fringe DNS that's probably going to be slow. And there's a laundry list
Wow.
of sites that you're not going to be able to go to anymore down here.
Time to run your own DNS
And a
server.
broken SVG at the bottom of the page.
That is terrible, isn't it?
They forgot to put a width on it.
Unless, oh yeah, it's that one.
Oops.
No one ever gets to the bottom of the article.
They read that line.
Yeah, just share it on Facebook. That's all that matters. And Apple, the new EU laws, they do have a little bit of bite to them in terms of what was the Google fine earlier? Like
5.9.
just
million.
such a small number for them. These are percentages of your total turnover in a certain amount of time. That might hurt.
Apple might be the first big tech group to face charges under EU digital law.
It's the App Store. Everybody wants them to open up the App Store, but they're not opening it.
It's not even so much that they want to open the App Store. It's that Apple is very difficult. Like, most of these things start from a request to Apple to justify what their app fees are. It's like, okay, it costs 30%. Can you give us a breakdown? And Apple's like, no. It's like, well, we see that your profit margins have rocketed you to $1 trillion company, and you have some hostage people on your applications, and now you're Sherlocking applications, which is a story we're going to have later. Don't you think that's like really hard on your developers? And Apple's like, stop it.
Developers, yeah.
What's that word?
That was all us. We invented that. Those are all original Apple. They can only exist in the Apple walled garden. Apple is ultimately responsible for creating this.
I mean, in
You
fairness,
made this? I made this.
their response could be, do you know anything about our history? Now, I will apologize. I've missorted this because I saw Wales, but in fact, New South Wales, not in Europe. Sorry.
New South Wales government is investing millions in a digital identity. So just copy paste our response to the digital driver's license in like California and other places in New York. Yeah, it's just, this will go
No,
really
thank you.
well. No.
I don't want this.
They're
Nobody wants this.
They're throwing a whole lot of your tax money at this, and they're going to have more control over your life.
Gosh, how wild would it be if you just got a check in the mail? It's like, why did the government send me a check for $11.63? And it's like, oh, this is the amount of money we would have spent on a boondoggle digital ID program. Well, we decided better of it, and we were going to send you the money instead.
I couldn't, like, if I saw that, I would probably have a stroke because it's so far. I'd be like, am I in some sort of Twilight Zone here? What's happened? You know what?
That's the ultimate segue for that.
Yeah.
It's the CERN. We've shifted dimensions again. And this dimension, honestly, I think if more politicians did this,
Yeah.
it would be hugely
Popular.
The problem is, you got to go long form.
You have to admit, AOC playing Among Us was pretty funny and also kind of tongue-in-cheek and very meta, depending on where you lie on the political spectrum.
Wasn't she terrible at it?
Yeah.
Yeah, telling who's lying. That's the whole point of the game. Or lying to other people.
Deepfake video of Nigel Farage. Is that how you say that? Farage playing Minecraft. Of course, is not real, his party says.
It should be, though. There's actually quite a few of these. I like the ones where it's like Trump, Hillary, and Biden playing Minecraft. And Hillary gets angry because Trump stole all her diamonds. She's like, what did you do?
Well, in this one, Farage blows up Rishi Sunak's house with TNT. I like the
classic.
I really like the response from his spokesperson here because they were like, "Is this real or whatever?" And he was like, "It's obviously not real, but it is hilarious. You should watch it."
I would not blow up someone's house in Minecraft. That's a dick move.
Yeah, the whole in Minecraft joke.
Yeah.
He should use that for all of his campaign speeches. And, if you want to know what it looks like at the end when all of the corporations and the government get together for a surveillance state, we're seeing probably like the middle of it here. But over in China, it's been going on for a lot longer, and they've reached kind of end game levels.
The Turkestan Times headline is Chinese security agencies using AI cameras to systematically track, a word we've discovered YouTube doesn't like, reports German media citing public tenders for the system. So it would be okay if that were like billionaires, like you using AI cameras to systematically track billionaires. That would but that's never going to happen. See also that billionaires' private air travel now has more protection under the law, like VHS rental records, than say your website browsing history, which your ISP is all too glad to sell. Verizon.
So when they say, what was the word that they use there? Tenders. They're not talking about chicken tendies.
They might be.
Well, that would be a better story, right? They're talking about, contracts that they are offering in Germany to German firms to do this technology, and it literally spells out and it puts the bad word in there. It's not like we want to track some people. It's like we want to track this guy.
It's like,
And we want to have all of these various horrible Orwellian things included in the system, and they're very honest about it. If you're in Vietnam, oh boy, do I feel bad for you. We're in the heat dome, but here's a question. Heat dome? Get rid of the heat dome, but no internet. Do you push the button?
If I also don't have any responsibilities.
yeah, if I don't have to go to work or.
Well, no, you still have to do everything. You still have to go to work during the heat dome.
Yeah, it would be hard to earn a living without the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in Vietnam, rip.
3 of Vietnam's 5 undersea cables are damaged and down. And they're working on getting them back. Who did they piss off?
Maybe the orcas.
Is there a fishing boat doing bad things in the area?
Probably Cthulhu, right?
It's the container.
That's an inside joke.
It's a local story.
And Japan, it seems Japan is kind of taking a zero tolerance approach with these tech companies, which is kind of refreshing, I guess.
Japan to toughen screening of social media ads amid investment scams. Yeah, so it turns out the lackadaisical approach, the ads are less stringent than what we are, certain things cannot show up in the transcript. But if you run an ad, it's completely fine. And Japan is looking at that and saying, what? What?
Nani?
And they're saying hey, Facebook, you have people from outside Japan screening these ads. You need Japanese people to be doing this because you don't understand the nuances of these scams. However, it goes a little bit back to what you were just talking about because the victims here are billionaires. They're being deepfaked and used for financial scams. They don't like it.
Have you seen how many Elon crypto scams there are on gestures around
the internet?
And yet we suffer under ridiculous restrictions.
And we are well into security, so of course we have hacks and leaks galore.
AMD may have had a data breach. Intel broker claims theft of employee and product info, including some unreleased stuff and maybe some firmware files and some other things. AMD is investigating. They also got another company, maybe.
May have.
Well, probably. Oh, the next one should have been the Apple story because they also claim to have hacked Apple as well.
So we can take the spotlight off of your darling? Well,
Chill.
This is another big company, and it's another embarrassment.
Security bug allows anyone to spoof Microsoft employee emails. When asked for comment, Microsoft's like, no, it's a feature, not a bug. And so the security researcher was like, all right. And so he sent emails from Microsoft to Microsoft, and they were like, oh.
Security at Microsoft.com.
They're like, well, I guess we probably should fix that.
Now, it only works if you're an Outlook user, but
Yeah.
who's not using Outlook at this point? I guess Gmail.
Fun times.
And Microsoft has another, not an embarrassment in their eyes, because in their eyes, they're like, why would we build software that continues to work? You have to.
We just need to scrape your data off of it.
You need to pay us to replace that. What are you thinking?
Nearly 20% of running Microsoft SQL servers have passed the end-of-life support. Nobody wants to upgrade because it costs a lot of money, a crazy amount of money. It's like we want to use the features that we have today tomorrow. Microsoft says, no, you have to give us more money again.
How are you going to put AI in it if you don't let us update it? And Snowflake, a terribly named company, and apparently not very good with security either. Now they still maintain, I think, that this was not their fault. They say this was people not using two-factor and being credential stuffed, but it was widespread.
Hackers demand as much as $5 million from Snowflake clients. It's kind of a nightmare scenario for Snowflake too, because Snowflake is like they have backups and everything's fine, but they're demanding from the clients of Snowflake services. So that's got to be embarrassing and also like just really terrible. It's like, we've got your data. We're going to release it unless you give us money.
And if you're running an ASUS router, you know the drill. Time to update the firmware.
Asus warns of critical remote authentication bypass on 7 routers. This was severe enough we actually pinned a thing on the forum just to be like, hey, by the way, update, because the exploits were already going around, which is not fabulous.
AI has definitely accelerated that
Yeah.
whole cycle. Like you have to be really on the ball.
Not related to the Asus hack, but I saw that somebody could take the CVE and then like the source code and be like, help me find the vulnerability, and the AI was very good at doing that.
We're probably a couple of years away from having an AI just in your security infrastructure, monitoring things at all times. You know? And then that AI will be owned by the NSA.
Cisco's already selling that product, whether it exists or not. I don't know.
Well, you can have all the security you want. I don't care how many robots you've got. I don't care how many firewalls, what your layers of redundancy are. One not smart person can burn it all to the ground.
Phishing attack hits LA County Public Health Agency, jeopardizing 200,000 plus residents' personal info.
Oof.
Fabulous.
This wasn't one person. This was a organized attack, and they got several people with some phishing attacks. 53 employees didn't know better than that.
It sounded legit.
I said I got free Dogecoin.
It was from Elon Musk.
And here's another one that the AI it could not wait to start taking advantage of this.
The Ars Technica headline is ransomware attackers quickly weaponized PHP vulnerability with a 9.8 severity rating. This was actually an improperly fixed vulnerability from 2011 or 2012. Fortunately, it only seems to affect Windows servers running PHP.
And Japanese and Chinese character sets. But China got hit hard by this. And if you were looking to buy a car this past holiday week, you have a day off, let's go do some car shopping, right?
As you do.
And you might have been met with some very much disappointment and probably some car salesmen who were nearly unaliving themselves.
Cyber attack cripples thousands of car dealerships in the U.S. and Canada on a busy holiday. The car industry was already suffering a lot. Part of me thinks this was just smokescreen for how bad things are financially.
So you can blame the quarterly numbers. Well, this is because of a third party, because it turns out that third parties run pretty much every dealership. There's some sort of ubiquitous software that they all share, which is probably price fixing us, right?
Yeah.
But that software, luckily they were like, hey, we can get everything back up. We got backups. They were rolling it out, but they didn't do the right fundamental work, I don't think.
They got hacked again while recovering from the first cyber attack. Oops. So they're down again.
A second cyber attack has hit the tower.
You talk about your stomach dropping. It's like, okay, we had to work through the holiday, but you know what? Looks like
okay.
by the weekend we're going to be able to see our families again. Yeah.
Nope.
Oh.
And we talked about FedEx, and they're constantly monitoring your license plate. Not a whole lot you can do about it. But with every kind of surveillance, who actually takes care of the data once they've got it?
New ALPR vulnerabilities prove mass surveillance is a public safety threat. So you should read this article and say, wait a minute, the database exists and it can be hacked, and then everybody's able to track my location, and it's not just in case if it's related to a law enforcement investigation. And then we say, that's what we've been saying for years.
Not just the database. Lots of models of the cameras have hard-coded backdoors.
Because obviously they do.
That's a difficult thing to explain to your parents of why shouldn't I get a Ring doorbell? My friend has one and it's really cool. And it's like, they can send that to law enforcement. And she's like, but isn't that a good thing? And I was like, no.
I'm looking here at your internet history, and I see all these adult websites. Can you care to explain? And it's like, what? They were just verifying my age. And it's like, I can see everything that you looked at. What is this?
And everywhere you've been. And so it's everywhere. Surveillance is everywhere. There's nothing you can do to stop it. And even when they get caught, they're going to get a tiny little fine, and they're going to surveil you even more because they're angry at you for complaining.
Chrome sends AI history to search data to Google because this is going to somehow enable you to talk to an AI about what your search history was. But you could already do that in a local language. Like, there's no reason this has to go to the cloud. There's no reason this should go to the cloud. Zero.
We learned last week that Google is already working on their Windows Recall clone.
Yeah.
So they love that. I mean, they are an ad company. Remember, they're not a software company first. They are an ad company first. And now the advertising profile we've learned was, it wasn't the advertising profile. It was the PageRank profile. It was, 30-some thousand items. Ad profile is probably more than that. And one of those is definitely what you're watching.
Campaigns can now see what you watch on TV, and that's changing everything. Why? Because smart TVs fingerprint and send your content to the cloud. And if that sounds very alarmist, you should look at some of the security research being done on smart TVs because they'll send the file names of files on USB sticks when you plug it into a USB port, which is just bananas.
I hope I never buy a smart TV again. But I mean, I've never bought one, but it's the selections
harder
for
to find,
not getting them is lower and lower. And here's one where here's a public service announcement. When you delete things in the Apple ecosystem, it's never really going to be deleted, ever. Remember the nudes?
Yeah. Cheating husband sues Apple after his wife discovered deleted messages that were sent to others.
Ladies of the night that he hired outside of his wife.
We don't know they were ladies.
I guess that's true.
I love that Leslie Nielsen joke, the Our Lady of the Evening. It's amazing.
So how did he get caught? Well, it turns out that they shared the Mac desktop computer. So he was using his iPhone on the same Apple ID as the Mac desktop computer, which was cataloging all of his text messages reliably. And the wife went and looked at that, and she found him.
Turns out the deletes don't cascade.
I loved his explanation. He was like, I think like if I had just told her, it would have saved the marriage. Like she would have been okay with it. Wow. I was like, I don't think so, dude.
I don't think he believes that either. That's for the court case.
Yeah, co-parter.
It was this guy must have had a little money too because it was millions of dollars of divorce settlement. So that's a lot of money that he won't be able to pay those girls / boys. And here's a little local flavor to wrap it up, just to show you that you. Oh, I didn't even mean to do that. You boil the frogs as young as you can, and these kids are going to be used to the surveillance state before they get out into the world.
Addressing a quote-unquote epidemic, Fayette will put vaping sensors in some middle schools. Yeah, this is a Kentucky school, so they're there might be a smoking problem in Kentucky schools.
Vaping is super popular. Like I feel like my generation, no one smoked or anything, and then the generation after me, my younger cousins, none of them smoke, but they all vape.
Are these nicotine vapes? Or
a lot of
just
them are
flavored vapes?
No, a lot of them have nicotine.
Nicotine? Okay.
Yeah.
Because flavored vapes...
Or THC.
I mean, I guess it's annoying to other people in the school, probably antisocial, but isn't that bad for them?
I mean, it's still secondhand vapor, smoke, whatever.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't want to be breathing it in.
I mean, I don't want to be breathing other people's stink either, but sometimes, fart cloud.
But is this necessary to do during school either? I mean, come on.
Well, if it's got nicotine in it, then that explains why.
Weekly reminder to bathe and change your bedding and sheets.
And don't vape in small enclosed spaces.
Don't blow smoke in other people's faces. They don't like it, as it turns out.
Like once a year, a damp cloth, just wiping your walls down. Not a bad idea either.
Who are you making these messages for?
Just feel like some people need to know.
Public service announcement. Was that the last story? That was it.
It was.
That's it. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.